everybody. Welcome back to another MyTutor online school tutorial. Today we're doing GCSE Maths and we're looking at some hard expansion and factorization, so like levels 7 to 9, expansion and factorization. So this session is 1 hour long, so it'll finish at 10:45. Nice early one today, gosh. So yeah, this is me, Molly, who's leading the session. I'm just finishing my second year studying computer science and maths at the Uni of Bath. So the format of today, which I'll explain as you can start joining a Kahoot. Will be that we'll do a short Kahoot at the beginning, and this time I've just split them into 2, so we've got a different Kahoot at the end this time, as someone suggested yesterday. So it's just 5 questions because they're like hard, they're not just kind of click the answer, you have to kind of work it out a bit more. But we'll do a Kahoot just to test understanding at the beginning, see where everyone's at, and then do the teaching of the lesson, and then do another Kahoot at the end. A different one, but on the same, very similar level, and then we'll see how much people have improved. Cool. See, I know enough Russian to know what that means. I'm enjoying Jake Peralta. We'll get started once a few more people have joined, because there's 30 of you here at the moment, which is impressive. 30 of you are awake. Well done. What I'll do as well is I'll just put this on the chat so that if you haven't quite joined by the time that I start, you can join throughout. Cool. So that's most people. So I think, and because it's on there, I think I'll get started now. Okay, so there's only 5 questions, but they do take a bit longer to work out. So you have 2 minutes for each one. So here's the first one. This is like this is an ease you into it kind of thing. Again, don't worry if you can't do this one. Like, I am going to start with a quick reminder of the basics, but yeah, we'll kind of do some hard stuff. Okay, I think that's most people who've got it. Brilliant, lots of people got that one. That's really good because we can like build on that knowledge today for that. Perfect. With these ones, I won't really be explaining too much why they are the answers that they are, but when we do the quiz at the end, I'll actually go through each one properly. And don't worry if you have no idea how to do this. We'll be covering it. This is just a base kind of, see where we're at. I'll leave the full time for these remaining ones because I think some of them are quite tricky. Okay, brilliant. So actually it's the one that had the highest amount of people getting it, so that's really good. And everyone else who got this one at least saw that it was the 3x squared. So I'll be explaining how to do ones like these throughout the session. Okie dokie. Okay, brilliant. So again, it's the one that the majority of people got, so that's fantastic. Again, I'll be explaining how to do these. That one was similar to last time. Okay, now we've got 2 factorization questions, and it's factorization where the coefficient of x squared is more than 1, as in, you know, how many x squareds there are. So here there are 2. So these are hard, but yeah. You can kind of work off the answers for these and expand them and see which one gets you it. Try to actually attempt the factorization just because that's the point of it. You know, to see if that's what you can do. You know, there's no point in testing the expansion. So try if you want to. I mean, most people have answered now, but maybe for the next one, try actually covering up the answers and factorizing it. Yeah, just because that'll help you more. That's the actual point. Obviously, I can't stop you. Do what you want, but maybe just. Okay, I think everybody's answered. Cool, loads of people got it. As I said, it might have been from expanding that one rather than factorizing, or seeing that this is the only one which gives you 3, but maybe just try on the next one, cover them up. Yeah. I wanted to do these questions where you had to actually type the answers, But you have to pay to do that on Kahoot. So, you know, no thank you. Okay. More seconds. I think some people are still answering, so I'll leave this one to go to the end. This is the last question, though. Brilliant. Loads of people got that. Again, it could be from expanding, but nonetheless, very impressive. Brilliant. Yeah, I'm going to explain how to do those types of questions as well. That will probably end up being a lot of the lesson because they're difficult. Cool. So Emma was in third, Emma in second, and Smart Dude again, the return. Brilliant. So let's view the report here. That was very well answered. So I don't know if we can improve on that. Okay, 41% correct overall. Okay. So let's get into the lesson. And as I said, we'll be doing the other one, so like a different Kahoot, but like exactly the same level of questions, the same type of questions at the end, just so that you can't like memorize them and you actually have to try new ones. Okay, cool. So we'll start off with the expansion side of stuff. Someone said, are we doing binomials today? That was what was written on the lesson thing, wasn't it? But not what I was told to plan for. So I'm not. It's a really similar thing. So I might just briefly mention that. I think it might. I don't think it's at GCSE level. Oh no, maybe it is. I'll just have a quick look just to explain to you what it actually is. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so here it just explains it as this. So really, binomials are just brackets with multiple things in them. So what we're doing is binomial, and it's binomial factorization and expansion. You can get this thing, and it's at further maths or A level, where you have this binomial series, and it's basically a way of multiplying different things to different powers, like a quick kind of expansion method for it. Maybe we'll do that in a further lesson, I'm not sure, but it's definitely not core GCSE. So we're going to be focusing on what is technically, it is binomials, but just expansion and factorization, but kind of the hard stuff. So triple brackets we're going to be doing, and then factorizing with large coefficients. So we'll start off with the expansion side of things. So just as a quick kind of reminder, we'll do it with two brackets, and I'll show you what kind of that looks like. Oh, of course, my touchscreen doesn't want to work today. Okay, gosh, it's fine. I can type stuff. So if you have, for example, x plus 3, 2x minus 4. The way that I think about it, so you may have been taught like FOIL or something similar. The way that I always think about it, because it helps with triple brackets and so on, is to start with the first element of the first brackets and then multiply it by each element in the second bracket. So we start here, so x times 2x, that's 2x squared. Gosh, the writing's going to be slow today, because then we go look at same one, next element, so that's minus 4x. And then because we've reached the end of this bracket, we move on to the next element in this bracket and do the same thing. So 3 times 2x, that's plus 6x. And then we look again at that same element by the next one. 3 times minus 4, that's minus 12. So essentially, you look at the first one, multiply it out by everything one by one in the second, then you move on to the next one, multiply it out one by one, everything there. And then we can simplify this. 2x, oh, I don't know if I can make it, we'll just write it like that, 2x squared, and then we just simplify, combine the x's together, so it becomes plus 2x minus 12. So hopefully that's one that everybody is familiar with, but it's just kind of this, and this actually is the FOIL method, you do it in the same order here. But this method of taking the first one and multiplying it by everything, and then the second, is going to be really helpful for what we'll look at now. So what if we had something like this? What if we had x plus y minus 5 times 3x plus 2y minus 10. So we've got 3 things in each bracket. So kind of a more confusing one to multiply. Someone just said, what's the answer on the last page? 2x squared plus 2x minus 12. Yeah. So when we have this, obviously the FOIL method isn't going to work here, but we can do exactly the same method as what we just did there. So we'll start with the first element here, and you multiply it by the first one here. So we get a 3x squared. And then we multiply it by the second, and we get a 2xy. It's convention, by the way, to write these things as xy, even though that's kind of like x times 2y. You always write like number xy, or like a, b, you kind of write the letters in alphabetical order. Means that it's easier to spot and combine them. Then we do this by the third, so minus 10x. And then we take the next one. So because we've reached the end of this bracket, we take the next one here and we multiply it. So first of all by 3x, so plus 3xy. So you see now how it's easier to spot that this xy and this xy are going to be able to be combined. Then we multiply it by the next, so that's going to be 2y squared. And then by the final one, so minus 10y. And then finally, the last element of this bracket. Multiply it by the first one, minus 15x. Multiply it by the next one, minus 10y. And multiply it by the final one, plus 50. So you've got to be very careful with the negative signs in these. So here, because we have the negative times the negative, it becomes a positive. And then what we can do here is combine like terms. So we've got an xy and an xy. We've got a couple of y terms and a couple of x terms. So this one will become, so 3x squared, because there's only one of them. The convention as well for writing these, you normally write all of the squareds, all of the ones with multiple letters, then singles, then the constant. So for example, 3x squared plus 2y squared. And then we've got a 2xy and a 3xy, so that's a 5xy. Then we've got a minus 10x and a minus 15x, so that's minus 25x. Then we've got two lots of minus 10y, so minus 20y. And then we've got that plus 50 on the end. So that there is the final answer to this one. Yeah, exactly. As Sijal said, it's simplifying the equation. Yeah, cool. So I'll give you guys one to have a go at, and then just type your answers on the chat and we'll see. So I'll make this one a slightly quicker one. So let's say x plus 4, and then have in this bracket, in fact, let me just do x plus 4, x squared plus x plus 3, x minus 3. So give that one a go and pop your final answers in the chat, and I will reply to them saying whether you're right or not. Oh, the up arrow stands for like square, like imagine this is up the top basically. So like x up arrow 2 is x squared. Also, there's a lot of you sending answers and it's fantastic. So I'm actually, if I don't reply to you, assume that you're correct because a lot of you are. Okay, I think we'll go through and do this one out because loads of people have got it, which is fantastic. So we'll just go through one by one. So this time I'll just kind of type it out as I'm doing it. So we start with the x squared and we multiply it first of all by the x. So that gives us x cubed. Then we multiply it by the minus 3. So that gives us minus 3x squared. And then we look at the x in the first bracket. Multiply it by the x, gives us an x squared. Multiply it by the minus 3, gives us minus 3x. And then we look at the 3 in the first bracket. Multiply it by the x, gives us plus 3x. Multiply it by the minus 3, gives us minus 9. And then what we can do here is see that minus 3x squared plus x squared gives us a minus 2x squared. And these two cancel out. So what you end up with is x cubed minus 2x squared minus 9. So loads of you got that, which is really, really good. So well done on that one. I'm going to go over now some triple brackets questions. So let's have a look. So this is one such as this. X minus 3, x minus 4, x plus 1, for example. So with this one, does anybody have any ideas about how you could expand this? Yeah, brilliant. Loads of people got that, which is perfect. So you expand 2 of them and then do it by the last one. Brilliant. So let's go ahead and do that. So if we expand these first 2, doesn't matter which 2 you do. So we'll expand these 2 and we'll get x squared, and then you get a minus 4x and a minus 3x, so that's minus 7x, and then you get a plus 12. Let me know if I did that too quickly. So then we have this as the first 2, and then that x plus 1 on the end. And now we've got something like before, where we've got, that's why I did this question before, because now it's exactly in this format. So now we can go ahead and expand these one by one. So we get x cubed. I'll give you one of these to have a go at in a moment, don't worry. X cubed plus x squared. And then looking at the second number, minus 7x squared minus 7x plus 12x plus 12. And this will simplify because we can combine the x squareds. So we get a minus 6x squared. And we can combine the x's, so we get a plus 5x. So there's your final answer for that one. So whenever you see triple brackets as well, if they've all just got like x's at the beginning or 2x or whatever, that's how a cubic is factorized, with 3 brackets like that. Someone asked, where did I get the plus 12 from? That was from minus 3 times the minus 4. Gives us a positive 12. Cool. Okay, so, okay. A couple of people have said, can you go slower on the last part and re-explain the adding part? Sure thing. I'll do one more and re-explain the adding part. So I'll just do one where we've already expanded something. And then x minus 2. So I'll go a bit slow on here and the combining part. So the first thing that we do is we take this element and multiply it by everything. So here we get an x cubed minus 2x squared. And then we look at the next bit, the next one here. So this gives us plus 5x squared minus 10x. Plus 5x squared minus 10x. And then finally, we look at this one, the minus 4, which gives us minus 4x and plus 8. So that's what we get for that one. Now, the bit where we combine it, when we've done it in this method, all the things that we can combine are actually next to each other. So we've got a minus, so you look for anything that's got the same, you ignore the numbers and anything that's like got the same x or the same letters. So we've only got 1x cubed, so we can't do anything with that. But we've got 2 things with x squared. So we've got a minus 2x squared and a plus 5x squared. So all you have to do is minus 2 plus 5. And that gives us 3. Same thing as saying 5 minus 2 gives us 3. So this becomes a 3x squared. And similarly, if you look at the x's, we've got 2 things with an x on the end. So we've got a minus 10 and a minus 4. So add them together, you get minus 14. So this becomes minus 14x. And then there's only one constant number, so something with no x's in it. So we can't do anything with that. So we just write out what we have. So we have an x cubed plus a 3x squared minus that 14x, add that 8 on the end. So hopefully that was slower and made a bit more sense as to why I was doing all of that. Someone said, when you're adding, what do you do with the powers? They stay the same. So when you're adding x squared terms, it's just the numbers that you add. Because if you imagine x squared as like, I always imagine it as like a thing or like a blob or something, right? If I have minus 2 of something and I have 5 of something, I get 3 of that same thing. So it doesn't affect the powers. It's just x squared is just the thing, if that makes sense. So it's just the numbers that we're on about. Okay. Okay. So I'll just give you guys, do I have time for that? I'll give you guys one to have a go at quickly. So let's do 2x plus 3, x minus 4, x plus 2. So give that one a go. I'll only give you like a minute, so don't worry if you don't quite finish it, but get started with it and we'll see. Okay, cool. A few people are getting it, so I'll go through the answer now. So I'll do this one fairly quickly, just because I think it's important to get onto the factorizing side. But just rewatch the YouTube video if you're not 100% sure what I'm doing here. So I'm going to first of all look at those first two brackets, and we'll get 2x squared, and then we get minus 8x plus 3x. So that's a minus 5x, then we get a minus 12. Then multiply that by this bracket. And then we do these one by one. So we get 2x cubed plus 4x squared minus 5x squared minus 10x. Then looking at the last number, minus 12x minus 24. So as I said, if you're not sure what I did there, go and watch the YouTube video and like pause and see if you can follow. I'm just doing it one by one. And then I'm just going to combine those terms. So we know that the x cubed can't be combined, but we've got a 4x squared, and then we subtract 5x squared. So that's the same as saying minus 1x squared. Then we have minus 10x's and minus 12 more x's. So that's minus 22x, and that minus 24 on the end. So that's how we do that one. So these are quite repetitive and similar when you get these. The only other thing that I wanted to say is that if you see something like this that was in the first, so something cubed, you can't just cube each element. Make sure that you write it out as x minus 5, x minus 5, x minus 5, because this does have squared and x terms because you do write it out like this. So make sure that you pay careful attention to that. Okay. So let's move on now to factorizing, and we'll do factorizing with some hard coefficients, and we'll just spend 10 minutes on this or just over, and then do the final quiz, because it doesn't take too long to explain. I hope it's just one that you've got to like bash out loads of practice with. So I'll do the explaining bit, and then there are loads of questions available online that you can have a go at. So as a quick refresher, how could you expand x squared? Oh gosh, this is where I've got to come up with them. X squared minus 5x plus 6. And I'll explain briefly how to do this because it helps with it with multiple coefficients. Okay, so with this one, and this is the method that we're going to follow always with factorizing. The first thing that we always do, because basically, if you think about when you expand things, this number you get from multiplying the numbers on the end, and this number you get from adding them. So the first thing that we always do is we set up our brackets. So it's an x squared, as there'll always be when we have to factorize. So it's 2 brackets. And this is just a 1x squared. So it's just going to be an x at the beginning of each bracket. And then we think about what we want the signs to be. So we know that this is going to be, it's got to be 2 of the same sign, because to multiply to get a plus, they either have to be 2 positives or 2 negatives. And then they have to add to make a negative. So we know that this has to be 2 negative signs, which is cool. And now we just want 2 numbers that multiply to make 6 and add to make 5. And if you can't see those immediately, what I always do is write out everything that multiplies to make 6. So we've got 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. And then you look at those and you think, which ones there add to make 5? Well, it's 2 and 3. So those are the ones that we put in here. And just as one more example, and I won't ask you guys to do this one, I'll just show you. What if you had x squared, let me just work this out really quickly. X squared minus x minus 12. When you've got a negative on the end, you know that we've got 1 positive and 1 negative, because the only way to multiply things to get a negative number is by multiplying 1 positive thing and 1 negative thing. So when we set up our brackets, we know that we've got an x plus and an x minus. So then what we do is we do the same next step. So you multiply everything, you write down everything that multiplies to make 12. So 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. And if you ever struggle with this bit, what I do is I go along. So 1 times the thing will always be right. And then I see, does 2 go in, does 3 go in, and so on, until you reach this point where if you chose the next number, it would repeat 1. So if we then chose 4, it would repeat this one. So we stop. We know that we've found all of the factors that we can. Okay. Yeah, cool. Some people are getting this already, which is fantastic. And then what we do is we choose the 2 here now that have a difference of what we want here, because we're going to be adding 1 and subtracting the other. So this has just got a 1x. So which here have a difference of 1x? It's this one. It's 3 and 4. And then you put it in so that it equals a minus 1. So to get minus 1, we want to be subtracting the bigger number because it's negative. So that's what we'll do. We'll subtract the larger number. And you can check this and see that that will work. A factorization where they have both negative numbers. That's like the previous one. They're actually just as easy as adding two numbers. These are actually the hardest when you have one positive and one negative. Okay, so when you have a larger coefficient of x squared, these become harder, but they're not impossible. So as an example, let's say you have 2x squared. Oh gosh, right, let me just up with one quickly. Okay, let's say you have 2x squared plus 9x plus 9. I've got to make sure I do ones that can actually factorize. So what we do here, we're going to start in the same way. We're going to set up our brackets. But this time, we have to make a 2x squared. So one of these has to be 2x. And the other one has to be x. That's the only way that we can make a 2x squared. And then we know that because these are positive, they must be positive signs in here. And we can add them because they're both the same. We can put the positive signs in. So now again, we only need to find the numbers. So we're going to start in the same way and list things that multiply to make 9. So a 1 times 9 and a 3 times 3. And then what we want is ones that when we multiply one by 2 and add the other, we get 9. So you just try them. So 2 plus 9, no, that's 11. 1 plus 18, no, that's 19. 6 plus 3, yeah, that's 9. So then we know that it's got to be a 3 and a 3. And in this case, it doesn't matter which one goes with which. So I'll give you guys one to do. What if you had 3x squared? Bear with. I'll do a fairly difficult one, but not too hard. 3x squared plus 10x plus 8. Just be a little bit of time to have a go at that. Okay, cool. I'll go through this one. You can still carry on thinking while I do the beginning bit of setting up the brackets and things. So we set up our two brackets. And because it's a 3x squared, we know that it's got to be a 3x and an x. And then again, we know that they both have to be positive signs, so we can pop them in. And then we do the same. So you see how it's the same process every single time. So now we list things that multiply to make 8. So we've got 1 times 8 and we've got 2 times 4. And now we want one where if we multiply one by 3 and the other by 1, it makes 8. So 3 times 1 plus 8, no, that's 11, not 10. 3 times 8 plus 1, no, that's 25. 3 times 2 plus 4, that works. Now this is the key part, because these are different, it matters which one goes in which bracket. And we want the 2 to be multiplied by the 3. And that means we have to write it here. And the reason is because when you expand these, you never multiply something by the thing that it's in the same bracket with. You multiply it by the opposite bracket. So that determines the way round that we write these numbers. Okay, so we'll do one more and then head on to the Kahoot. So with this one, I'm going to make it quite difficult, but see if you can get it. And then don't worry if you can't, and we'll go through it. So 5x squared plus 28x minus 12. So just give it a go, even if you're not sure that you can, and just see what you get with it, or see how far you can get. I'll just give you a minute or so to have a go at that. Ooh, that's very, very close. Yeah, so some people are getting close. Okay, cool. A couple of people are getting it. So I'll go through this one now so that we have time to do the final quiz. So we're going to do this one again, not be overwhelmed by the big scary numbers, and just do it the same way that we do before. So set up our brackets, and we know that we're going to need 5x in one and an x in the other. And now we look here and see, we've got a minus, which means that we've got a positive and a negative. And we can't even write these down because we don't know whether the plus goes here or the plus goes here. So we know that we've got one of each sign. So we're going to use that and write out again everything that multiplies to make 12. 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. 12 is like a favorite one of examiners and me, because it there are 3 ways of making it, so it's a good one for kind of testing it. Now, what we want is that when we multiply one of these by 5 and subtract one lot of the other one, or multiply one, take one and subtract 5 of the other one, that we get 28. Now, looking at it, we can help ourselves out. We can make some educated guesses. So it's probably not going to be that we're subtracting 5 of anything, because that's going to make the number way too small. So let's just try multiplying stuff by 5 and subtracting the other one. So it's not going to be this, because if we multiply this one by 5, we get minus 7. If we multiply this one by 5, you get 60, subtract 1, 59. If you multiply 2 by 5, you get 10, minus 6 is 4. If you multiply 6 by 5, you get 30, minus 2 is 28. There you go, that works. And as soon as you've hit one that works, you can check the others just to make sure that it's not going to work, but I'm pretty sure you could never get 2 different ways of doing it. In fact, no, I'm sure you wouldn't get 2 different ways of doing it. Yeah, So then we need to work out what we did. So we multiplied the 6 by the 5 and we added that. So this has got to be an add 6, so that we're multiplying this add 6 by the 5, and then we subtracted 2 from that. And there you go. So it is actually really methodical, and yeah, with that. Cool. So we've just got 8 minutes left. So let's do this final Kahoot and see if the percentage has improved. Be interesting now that they're not the same. Yeah, someone's asked, could you then expand it? So yeah, that's a really good way of checking your work. I'll kind of, let me just pop this pin on here and I'll show you what I mean. So you can kind of do like almost like a sanity check with yourself. So 5x times x, that's 5x squared. 5x times 6, that's plus 30x. Minus 2 times x, that's minus 2x. And minus 2 times 6 is minus 12. And then we combine those two x's. And you can see by expanding out why we actually did that factorization process that we did in the first place. Just combining that 30 and that 2. So that's a really, really good idea to check your own work. And I would always recommend that. What's that Russian one again? I'm intrigued by these. Yeah, and you put them mile. Which means I don't understand. That's promising. Get out of bed. I'm out of bed. Rosa Diaz, yes, the Brooklyn Nine-Nine names. Okay, I'll get it started. I'll just give it 30 more seconds or so. Because I've put the pin in the chat, you can join whilst we've started. Okie doke. We'll just get started now. You can join throughout, as I said, but I just want to make sure that we don't overrun, because I normally do. Right. So expand this one. We've got some triple brackets. Okay, I'll just skip in the last 20 seconds. Sorry if you haven't got your answer, and I just want to make sure. Okay, cool. Again, it was at least a majority there. So the way that we do this one is that we look at expanding the first ones first. So getting x squared minus 7x plus 12, and then multiplying that out with the second one. So x minus 5. And I don't have time to go fully through it, but you see you'll get an x cubed, then you'll get minus x squared minus 5x squared minus 7x squared, giving you that minus 12x squared. So if we go this one, another triple brackets. So give this one a go. Brilliant. Loads of you got that one, which is really, really good. Again, I won't go through it, but same as before, do the first two first and do it by the other one. Perfect. Okay, we've got 3 factorizing questions now. So again, try to do it without looking at the answers, because you can see quite obviously from the answers which ones to do. But give it a go yourself first. I'll only let this one go for a minute though. So when it gets down to 60 seconds, I'll be skipping. So get your answer in by then, just because I don't want to overrun by too much, like I always do. Okay. Sorry if you didn't quite get a chance to do that. Well done. Yeah. Really, really good. So we know that it's got to be a 3x and an x, and then we can see that the 8, we can split into 1 and 8 or 2 and 4. Okay, another factorizing one. Again, I'll only give you 60, so I'll give you a minute for this one. I'll stop it when it gets down to 60. Yeah, brilliant. Well done. So same method as before. One more, and then you can go back to bed. This one is actually a lot easier than it looks, because you can only split 11x squared into an 11x and an x, and then 3 can only be 1 and 3. So it's literally just which way around do they go. So not too bad at all. Okay, 10 more seconds. Someone says, what happens if the accuracy is decreased? I'll cry. No, it's fine. Yeah, brilliant. Well done. Easy on that. Okay, let's look at the podium. Third place, Beyblade. That's a throwback. Second place, Prantav. And in first place, Yanni Ponomaru. You clearly do understand, so it's fine. Brilliant. Okay, so at the start one, we got 41% overall. Yes, 51%. It increased. Thank goodness for that. Okay, brilliant. So clearly people picked up some stuff from the lesson, which is fantastic. So thank you very much for coming, and I hope that all made sense today. Check out the MyTutor website for more lessons coming up, and also some one-to-one tutoring, which can be super, super useful. So I will personally see you all next week sometime, but check out the schedule for stuff happening with that, and more MyTutor sessions. So thank you all for coming, and have a great rest of the day. Bye.